Okay, so this is gonna be a short series, or not so short, not too sure how this is gonna go, on how I'm revamping a game I made. So I'm gonna play some gameplay on screen right now. It's gonna show you the state of the map right now. I'm gonna give you another screenshot as well showing the state of the map prior to this update. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that map and we are going to give new life into it, put some textures in it, change the lighting around, have a whole new map basically off of it. We're gonna breathe new life into this old map on this old game. We're gonna try to revamp this entire game and we're going to make it the best it can possibly be for the engine it is on, which is on Roblox. So for starters, the first thing I did was I completely changed out the old texture. The old texture looked way too saturated, whereas in this one looks more gritty, grounded, but still colorful, kind of like a TF2 kind of feel, or that one map from Call of Duty Cold War. So after I did that, I realized, hey, this map doesn't look like it has any sort of liveliness in it beyond just this grass moving. So what I did next was I implemented some fog. So when I implemented the fog, I made sure it had a little bit of a brown tint to it. So now it makes it look more, instead of like a quarry, like getting closer towards a canyon with all the dust into it. This is why the map got renamed to Canyon during the revamp. So what I did after the fog was I realized, hey, since it looks like dust now, I'm adding some dust specks. So when I add in the dust specks, which will take a second to actually start showing, here it is right here, it adds just a slight bit of crispness to it that you wouldn't have without it, to make it look even more dusty and more gritty. After I did that, I also realized, hey, I could have some lighting above the map shine over the objects, and it would just give that little finesse, that little flair that it needs. So what I did was I had this piece of lighting added on top of it. I made it slightly purple, because purple contrasts perfectly with this shade of red. It is perfect on the color palette, matches this part perfectly, except for a little bit on the distance. Kind of messes with it a little bit, but it's okay because no one's really gonna be looking out there, and it's gonna be mainly right here, and it looks beautiful, absolutely gorgeous right here. So the next thing I did was like, okay, so I add that lighting in. Now I need legitimate lighting. So what I did was I have a plugin. It is called Atmos, which gives me skyboxes. I grabbed the peaceful morning sky. When I clicked on it, I looked it around. I was like, okay, cool, this fits in perfectly with this sky. Absolutely changed the lighting completely. Looks gorgeous. So from there, what I did was I went into my lightings property and played around with it for a second, sort of feel to the map. I wanted it more daytime so that it felt a little bit more gritty without it being like the player was visually impaired. So I changed it from 6 to 12 so it'd be perfectly over the top. And then I changed the color shift from purple, because since we already had purple, I changed it to 255, 138, 138. That way I had a nice little red tint coming off the top of it. Then I went down to the outdoor ambience, and I didn't like the blue. So what I did was I changed it to more of a brown color, which would be 145, 114, and 71. From here, what I realized is that I need an actual atmosphere to add into the game. So I went insert, object, atmosphere. With the atmosphere, and I added a 1 glare, 1 haze, and then changed the density from 0.395 to 0.45. That way you can just see the dust. And when I did that, I also changed it to where everything would be slightly lighter of a brown. So that way it pops a little bit more, you can see it a little bit better rather than it being dark and hidden in the corners on the other side of the map. So this is what the lighting is looking like at this state. So from here, what I did was like, okay, gonna need a little bit of color correction in this. Gonna need a little more pop to the color. Took the brightness, 0.07, brightened it up a little bit. Then I wanted the colors to contrast a little better, so 0.13. And then I wanted the saturation to look just gorgeous in comparison. So I went 0.2 on that. We can just add in a little bit of clouds. So from there, I took the clouds, and then I just made it have a little bit of a red tint on it. You can see it in the sky. These are the values. I'm not really gonna talk over it, it's just clouds. And then I added in some just random sun rays. I didn't want it to be too bright, but I still wanted them to show. I don't know exactly the values I put in, even though I could look at it. I can just do it like this, like I would normally. I changed the intensity to about 0.15, as well as the spread to about 0.7, sorry. That way you have to look straight up and you still won't get blinded. I was tired of seeing this grass as well as this super bright sand and this super bright mud. I got custom textures imported, starting with the grass as well as the ground. And then I went into the terrain, material colors, went to grass, and then I changed it from what it is to 212, 212, 212 on both the grass and the ground. And so now the grass looks a little bit deader, which looks good. And then I went and grabbed the limestone texture through the materials. So now that what I did with the limestone is I made it look all brown. So I added in the brown limestone texture, which made it look more brown rather than washed out like it did before, so that way it fits better on the color palette. And then for the last part of the textures, I added in a mud texture for this area right here. And it looks like this when you first put it in, but then you go into the terrain editor and I changed it to 249, 255, 224. And now you can just see it standing out, and it still keeps that red tint where it actually does look like mud next to this, but it doesn't look too dark. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is what the map looks like now after changing everything around, you know. This is what the game looks like now, and we're going to move around because there's movement in this game that was added. And you can just go around, and you can see this. There's a crazy difference in what the game was to what it is now.